Hi there. This is Joe Lo Truglio, and you're watching the whole podcast. Buckle up. We're about to take off.
Welcome to The Whole. I am Rob Sprance.
I'm Lori Levine.
I'm super excited. This is a guest, and Joe, I don't know if you know this, that I've sent invitations to probably year after year for about 4 or 5 years, and I don't know if I got lucky or got the right person. But
I think you got the right person. I hadn't heard it. I'm glad he got through.
There we go. So Joe Lo Truglio is with us, and you know him, I'm sure, from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The State, Wet Hot American Summer. I can go on, and we will at some point because he's given us 5 days to interview him. But well, we are going to start with the fact that even though you know Joe for comedy, you have to check out his new film that he wrote and directed, which is a horror film called Outpost.
I see his face everywhere.
Mike almost took your eye, Kate. You need to go back to group, not into the woods, by yourself.
I'm really ready. This is the best thing for me.
See you in 3 months.
Thank you, Earl. I know you pulled some strings.
Yeah, well, we need the help.
Fire take the rest of the road?
Took a lot more than that. After the big burn in 1910, Uncle Sam said the states had to bear the cost of firefighting. All these towers went up as a result. We got no water, Wi-Fi, or plumbing. Right, that's your fire finder. Tells us where to go if you see smoke. You are officially an Idaho Lands Department volunteer. Routine is key. Your head needs that. 3 months is a long time.
Who else knows I'm up here?
Just the townies.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Look at this penthouse view.
Just came for the peace and quiet.
Being all alone up here may be silent, won't be quiet.
Smoke spotted over.
Negative, no smoke, no fire.
It's right there. You're right on top of it.
We still haven't found Mike. He'll come.
30 minutes late. You need to stay in that tower.
Yeah, get back up in that tower.
I can't fire you. I got no one else.
They keep a rifle up there?
She needs to come off that mountain.
Watch Earl and anyone with him.
Sick of being broken. It's time to plant my feet and land a punch.
You can't contain that kind of fury once it starts.
No, you can't.
They're coming for your tower.
Hey! Answer me!
Don't leave the tower. Keep my mountain safe.
It's my mountain now, too.
In this film, Joe, it's like, it seems to me like it's kind of like a love letter to those classic 70s horror movies, because it has it's more about the vibe than anything else. And sometimes it's hard to explain what that means, but there are some films like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and some of these others where it's just so unnerving and creepy just before anything happens. Now, I'm not going to blow certain things because, there's some brilliant things that get done here that I did not expect, and I'm not going to blow that. I want everybody to watch it for that. But, the premise, of course, is, and the main character, Kate, is actually played by your wife, Beth Dover, who's in Orange is the New Black, and she has her own list of stuff, and we'll have 5 days with her at another point.
We have it. We have the time. We can do it.
So what she's in this outpost, watching for forest fires in this desolated forest. It's such a unique thing. What gave you the idea for that? Do those really exist? I mean, what gave
They do. They do. I've been interested in horror for a very long time. So I was about 13 years old, and it was a love that I had even before comedy. So I grew up reading Stephen King and trying to scramble HBO signal so I can see like Piranha or, collecting Fangoria magazine. So this is actually a very old love that I'm finally returning to. So I wanted to throw that out. And as far as the idea for Outpost, I knew it was going to be an independent movie. I was going to self-finance it with some other people. And so I wanted Beth, who's my wife, an incredible actor. I knew that it would be in the household for a while. So I kind of reverse engineered the story, which is to say that since I knew it was going to be low budget, I wanted it to look good. And I was like, where can we go for some production value? Mm-hmm. And I thought the top of a mountain, not really thinking of the logistics of actually doing that. But it started there, and then I started thinking about the types of horror movies that I love. And you were talking about the atmosphere and the mood of the film. Horror movies that revolve around descent into madness and insanity and strange POV and is it real, is it not real? Those were types of movies that I loved. And so I thought about our location on top of a mountain and something that might lend itself to those themes. And the fire tower, I knew that they had existed. And I thought, well, one of my favorites, as is many with people, is The Shining. And I thought about an isolation story. And so that's kind of how it began. I knew I was going to have a female protagonist. And I wanted a story where you weren't sure where it was going to go. I wanted something where you thought you knew where it was going to go, and then we switch it up. So so that's where it began. Very kind of long-winded answer, but it kind of began with where are we going to shoot? What kind of story can we do?
Yeah, and it does go in a direction I didn't expect. And again, I won't blow that, but it does. It touches on things like mental health. It touches on go ahead.
No, mental health and domestic abuse, domestic violence. These were all super sensitive, and PTSD, super sensitive subjects that I knew I wanted to handle very carefully. And so I was happy that the feedback that we've been getting has said that the movie has portrayed this character in a very respectful way. And so I was very happy to get that type of feedback. And I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Just because it was, I'm a 50-year-old white cis male that doesn't really know anything about like domestic violence. And so I had to kind of approach the character from an angle of, this is a character that is, it's very difficult for this character to ask for help. For Kate, who's the main character, it's hard for her to ask for help. And that's something I can relate to. Joe can relate to that. And so that was a lot of the challenges of this character were challenges for me, which is like, hey, if you need help, ask for it. And just to kind of piggyback off your comment about mental health, I think that's a stigma many people should kick. Ask for help if you need it.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's a lot of nuances, and undertones of that throughout. Finding a location and finding that outpost, because, the moment that you, and this is early, so I'm not blowing anything, but the moment you realize that the job at the outpost is to basically live in the outpost. Most of us modern day, the minute they said, okay, there's no Wi-Fi, that would be the horror movie right there.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But when you start, like when I got the whole sense of everything, I just started shaking my head like, nope. This is not something I would be doing. Like,
don't need to go up there. What are you doing?
Nope.
Not gonna get your answers up there. Yeah.
Isolated and everything. So did you, obviously you wrote this with Beth in mind, I would think, unless it's something you wrote a long time ago. How much input does she have in your writing part, or did you say, look, I'm going to write this first, and then I'm going to show it to you?
I did that. I wrote it first, and then shared it with Beth. Beth and I work really well together as a director, actor, and actor. With writing, it's a little bit more challenging with us. We both have very strong voices, and we've tried it in the past. And we've found that Beth's best kind of contributions to the project come after it's written, saying like, hey, here's a beat that, why don't we try this with it? Or often on the day when we were shooting in Idaho, she would come up with alternative ideas, either blocking or dialogue. And it was extremely helpful for many reasons.
getting another perspective of someone that you trust is huge, especially in
Yeah.
an industry where everyone wants to put their opinion in at
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single. So, being the fact that it's your first film directing and writing, and there's a lot of pressure on all of it, and you've cast your wife as the lead. How did you not wind up with an axe in you at any point?
Exactly. How do we not completely chop apart our marriage? Is is the real question. I think it really comes down to it was something that we both wanted to do ultimately, and we have a lot of respect for each other. I mean, some of the one suggestion I made is that we both have separate rooms on location, which I think truly helped, because at the end of it, we really kind of dove into our roles as actor and director. And at the end of the day, you need space. And I would be going over the shot list, and Beth may have wanted to just chill out and watch some reality TV and get ready for the next day's shoot. So I think that actually helped. I think really embracing our separate roles and giving ourselves space on set was important. And again, I surrounded myself with people that I knew. All the cast were friends that I've known for many, many years, with the exception of Otto, who played Earl, who I just met before we started shooting, and is incredible, great guy, and are now friends. His vibe was just perfect. He just was really able to kind of relax into basically an ensemble theater troupe, because I really did know everyone so well. And so that helped make the set a very easygoing. We worked hard. We had to get to it, but the vibe on set was one where it was collaborative. People felt safe. And I think that ultimately helped both the production and the marriage survive.
That's great. Now, I know you've done some directing, like you directed an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and you've done some other stuff, and like obviously no stranger to being in front of the camera. What did you learn? What did you learn that even though you prepared for it a million times, and everything, and all the advice everyone has given you, what did you learn anyway, where you're like, well, I didn't realize this was going to happen? Like, was it?
Yeah, well, there's some things that happen in production that you can't be prepared for, but some of them lend itself to happy accidents. So, for instance, our first day of shooting, when we got up to that tower, we shot the whole production was 16 days. It was 8 days on the tower.
Wow.
And we started with the tower. We started on top of the mountain. And so that first day one, we got to that tower, and there was a swarm of carpenter ants, flying ants, that were just all over the balcony. I mean, just covered one corner.
Oh, wow. So those were there the whole time.
Those were there. And so, yes. So my point is, it looked creepy as hell. And I'm like, well, we're going to have to shoot this, and we're going to have to work this into the movie. And it ended up becoming a significant thematic and symbolic element of the movie that kind of described her feelings of paranoia and these feelings of threatening men that were pestering her and just around her all the time. And so that was an example where you kind of used the environment, the setting, and something we didn't expect to our advantage. The movie went through a lot of difficult it took a while to get this movie done, and we were supposed to shoot in summer of 2020. We shot in summer of 2021. In 2020, we lost some lodging, and the loss of that lodging ended up having us postpone the production for a year. The window was very small to make this movie, so there was snow on the mountain from September until mid-June. And then fire season really picked up in August. So we really just had a month. And if you miss that month, you're waiting a year. Yeah. But in that year, I had another reading of the script. My director of photography, Frank Barrera, who I've known since I was 17 years old, we completed the entire shot list for a year. So many things happened in that year that ended up helping the movie. So that's what I learned. What I learned is that as much as you prepare, you're not. It's not going to work out that way. It will definitely be different. Be ready to kind of pivot and try to use that as an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Well, it came out great, and it's you should be very proud of it. And it's funny because when I invited you on, I had just watched it, and I was like, you know what, I'm trying it. Because I mentioned this before we started, but Lori doesn't like scary movies whatsoever.
They're not my favorite.
Right.
That's okay. They're not for everybody, for sure.
Yeah. So the biggest endorsement I could give this movie is she asked me, is it something that I can watch? I said, probably not.
No, but I will.
Well, I'll say this, and obviously do nothing that you're uncomfortable with, obviously. But I'll say that many people that have seen the movie and liked it were not horror fans. And that's because for the first 2 acts anyway, it really kind of dives into a more suspenseful and psychological type of movie where there's much menace and suspense, but not so much gore. And then the third act, I'm happy to say many people
The third act, everyone dies.
The money shot.
Almost. That's right. But it's something, and I say this very proudly, it's something, the third act is something a lot of people love about the movie and something a lot of people hate about the movie. And I think that's okay. And that's the kind of movies I want to make that kind of are at one end or the other and not ones that you're like, all right.
Okay.
I mean, people will watch this. Some will be like, okay. But I like that there is some type of not controversial, but a part of the movie, an aspect of the movie that may bump people or make people think about something they don't want to think about or show them something they don't want to see. And I think that's always a very exciting place to live as a filmmaker. So I don't know. And anyway, I throw it to you, Lori, and maybe you'll take a look and you can decide.
Well, I do live in Hell's Kitchen, your old stomping ground, so it's scary enough here.
Well, I won't ask online, but because of course the respect for privacy. But I lived on 46th Street between 9th and 10th, and loved it. I was in Hell's Kitchen for about 13 years. I was in New York for about 17.
And you grew up in Queens, right?
I was born in Queens. I was born in Ozone Park and then moved down to Florida when I was 5 years old. So I can't say I grew up in Queens, no, but I feel like I have a little bit of the attitude still in Queens.
No, the New York is with you. It stayed with you. It's
yes, for sure.
Yeah, I was born in Queens. I'm on Long Island now. Like this.
Okay.
That's where we migrate to eventually.
Yes.
So you mentioned when you were talking about one of your director of photography. Oh, actually, no. When you were talking about the person who played Earl.
Yes.
You gave a chef's kiss that immediately brought me to Boyle. I was like, I immediately thought of that. I can't say enough about Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think I've seen every episode except the last one multiple times. I've yet to watch the finale on purpose because I adore this show so much, and I've watched it so many times, and it's almost sad that I'm admitting this publicly, but I've seen at least every episode at least 3 times.
That's you guys. Why, smoke your butts because Ray Ray and the Beast don't even give a what. We don't give a what. Woo! Let's do this. Are you kidding me? Way to go.
So
wow, Rob, that's amazing.
I've gone through that cycle. Now I don't sit there like a lunatic, once in a while I'll just throw one on. But your performance.
You're scaring Joe right now, Rob.
I know. No. I look. I'm flattered. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is extraordinarily special part of my life. I have friendships there that I still keep, and we're all very close. Many big life chapters happened. I became a father doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Quite a few of us did. I got married during Brooklyn Nine-Nine, although I'd been with Beth for much longer. And so the combination of that incredible show and the writing of that show and the creators, along with the personal kind of big chapters, really have cemented that show as really a sea change in my life. And, we've had many people come up to us and say how it has helped them, in particular during the pandemic. And that it is a show that they're able to watch with their whole family, which is rare. And I'm extremely proud of the show. And Boyle, in particular, was a great character to play because I love the resilience of Boyle, and I loved his unadulterated affection, because I feel like that's one often not showed. Certainly on network shows a lot. I mean, I suppose now it was, but that kind of unbridled enthusiasm and energy and love for his male friend, I think, is important and not kind of seen a lot. And Boyle is such a wonderfully energetic, enthusiastic, positive character that I miss him. I miss that guy. He's much more buoyant and vibrant than I am from time to time. Yeah. And it's terrific. So thank you.
Yeah, and self-aware and comfortable in his own skin, despite what they've done to you over the years.
Yeah.
The outfits they've put you in, the predicaments they've put you in, the wordplay they've given you throughout the series.
Oh, yeah. Having a character that's so kind of tone deaf and can't read the room is so wonderful and can mine so much great stuff in it. And I also have to thank Dan Gore, the creator, and all the writers for giving Boyle a spine, because it would have been very easy to kind of make him a complete punching bag. Obviously, he is the butt of many jokes, but he's always been able to kind of stand up for himself when he needed to, or face Jake or anyone else that's not really serving him well or maybe treating him the best way. And I always thought that was important, because you just need to have some respectability, and a character needs to have some type of courage or element of self-respect in order for you to like the guy. And I thought they did a great job with Boyle.
Yeah, and at all points, I mean, he still is a detective in New York City. So, that alone should be enough of a spot for sure. Now, this was, and while you've done The State, which we'll get to in a bit, and tons of other things, Reno and all of these other shows, this was really your first time being part of that network comedy machine that week after week after week is churning out episode after episode. Some shows you'll get 10 episodes, you'll get 7. This is in the 20s, and it's consistently going, especially in the earlier parts of that. How much of an adjustment was that for you at first when you first started going, realize, okay, we've got the next show like immediately after that?
I loved it. I mean, I've always been a pretty restless person, which is to say, like, I'm most comfortable working, and it's hard for me to kind of sit still. And so having that job, aside for being, the thing every actor is hoping for, was also very conducive just to my personality type, which is like, okay, what's next? And it became such a well-oiled machine. You had producers and creators coming from Parks and Rec, and those creators and producers were coming from The Office. So we really were in a fortunate place where the logistics of production were very well-oiled. And so it never felt like a slog. It never felt like, when will it end? Sure, you have those days. But all of us, I should add, the cast, was very, very aware that this was a rare thing, what was happening with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and that you rarely get a cast that gets along. Not rarely, many casts get along, but it doesn't happen often. And so we were very, we made sure not to kind of take that for granted. And we're really grateful for every moment that we had on that show.
Yeah, and then having that, one of the negative parts to having that well-oiled machine that's part of a network is you have those moments where you're not sure if you're coming back, and this was a show that was saved by NBC. It's rare that another network comes in and saves a show. And this one, well deserved, and it actually gave back to NBC for doing that. Like I can't imagine. I gotta think Fox regretted that move, because
it's hard to say. I mean, I don't. We'll never know. I'll say that our time at Fox, the team there was always very supportive of the show. Kevin Riley, who was there, was very supportive of the show. I think it was a matter of the network was changing its programming, and they really wanted to focus on other things. And so, I wouldn't make them out to be a bad guy. I'm very happy, though, we ended up with NBC. It felt like a nicer fit. But it was a strange time. I mean, after 5 years, and then even 5 years is a long time, and they say, like, you're not coming back. We were all like, man, that's a bummer, but wow, 5 seasons. And, I'm kind of not celebrating, but just kind of raising a glass to just appreciate the time that we've had. And then moments later, we're suddenly have this incredible news that we're back alive thanks to the fans. It's a very surreal experience, for sure.
Every great show, you could go through them, Seinfeld, you name it, it needs almost every character and the actors that play them to be excellent. There are those shows that rise to the top. Everyone's great. Like there's no one you can say, except, and this was one of those. But I gotta give it up to Andre Braugher, especially because
the man, he's the man. I love that man so much. We all love that man so much. Yeah, I mean, when I found out he was doing the show, I couldn't believe it. Like I to myself, I'm like, why is he doing this show? Like, I mean, I couldn't be more thrilled. I remember there was a moment where after like that first table read, and I was going to my car, and I'm hearing this beautiful, velvety, deep voice singing in the parking garage, and it's Andre Braugher, and he has an incredible voice. And I didn't know that I was hearing, and he saw me, and I went over, and I said, Andre, I couldn't be. We all couldn't be more thrilled that you're here, but I have to ask, like, what made you do it? Why this show? And he said, he smiled, that big beaming smile of his, and he's like, I want to learn the feathery world of comedy. and I just laughed because it was just something that he's such a wonderfully odd and human person, and yet it made total sense. And I kind of asked him to elaborate, and he was saying, just like much like a feather kind of branches out, like the way the comic timing and free association, ad-libbing does that, and the comedians that he likes, and comedy has that element to it of just kind of riffing and spreading out and branching out in the moment. And I don't know, I thought it was a very shrewd observation of his. And then 8 years later, he still was.
Yeah, and stepping into a group of, I mean, you guys are a lot of from that improv world, Andy, yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, so Chelsea, like
Chelsea, yeah.
These people who, and it's funny how many, and this will bring me to the state eventually, but it's funny how many people we've had on the show that have come from Groundlings, UC, Upright, yeah. And so all these different ones, and you can see the chops. So for Andre to stand in there toe to toe, and I'm sure I can't imagine you guys didn't try to break him multiple times.
He's unbreakable.
Really?
He's unbreakable. Yeah, I can't break Braugher. Can't break Braugher. Actually, I can't break Braugher. I'll also add, though, Melissa Fumero and Stephanie Beatrice, who also coming into a crowd and a cast of people that were very proficient in comedy, really from the get-go were very strong and were very good. They got their sea legs, and the first season we were all kind of figuring out things, but they kind of took to it so well and are naturally really funny people and down to earth people that they really were able to kind of jump on the ad lib bandwagon. And I'll just also add too that after the first season, maybe a little bit of the second season, we didn't do a lot of ad libbing. There wasn't. We used to call it like fun runs, where we'd get everything in the script and then let's have a fun run, and you could kind of let it meander a little bit. But what we found out was that really we didn't use a lot of that stuff, to be honest. And what we were doing is just keeping a very hardworking crew later than they needed to be on set. And so we're like, let's just get the jokes in the can. And we always had alt jokes. The writers always had a great selection of jokes, but they were written ahead of time, and we do those. But in terms of like, okay, go ahead, cut loose, we reeled that in after the first season.
Yeah. As you mentioned, Stephanie, when I first heard her speak outside of the show, I almost fell out of my chair. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It's just completely different human being.
Well, Stephanie and Andre are the two big, seasoned, theatrically trained, and terrific dramatic actors. And they would talk about Shakespeare all the time. It doesn't surprise me that Stephanie was able to do that. She's an absolutely incredible actor, and it shows. Like, they are really able to create really believable personalities and characters, much different than their actual selves.
Yeah, it's great. And so I want to talk about this date a little bit, because I mentioned it a few times already. Exciting news, not so much for me because I'm not in the area, but you guys are putting on a live show. The cast from the state, and the most appropriate title to the live show, which is Breaking Hearts and Dipping Balls.
That's right.
Which will be in Denver at the Paramount Theater on August 30th, and you can get it's at the-state.com. Are you looking to expand this?
Absolutely. To be clear, the Denver show is kind of a test run. We plan to take this on tour, but there's a couple of things that we wanted to kind of work out and test before we announce the full tour. But that's always been the plan, and I'm sure we'll be in New York and LA at some point, as well as many other places all over the country. So, with the strike happening, it's also the silver lining. There isn't really many silver linings, but one is that we're all available, and we're able to kind of get together to do this. And, the state was my comedy boot camp. It was my writing and directing and producing boot camp. And so those guys are, I've known them for so long, since we were 17 years old. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. And I'm a little nervous too, just seeing that dynamic. It's been a long time, but every time we get up there on stage, I end up having a great time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I got to think that it's going to come back pretty quick. I mean, all of you, it's not like you haven't worked together before. I mean, the amount of shows that has spawned, even, Reno and all these different things, and almost everyone, at this point, you've seen in so many different things in so many different ways. So it's exciting. I hope you do. That'd be great if you do a full tour. I'll be there in New York.
I would say there's a 95% chance that's going to happen. I mean, we're all really excited about it, and truly our schedules are opened. And I know that whichever agency is kind of helping to organize this, they already have some cities pinned and theaters pinned for us to just kind of throw it down. So stay tuned for that.
It is really amazing that this kid from Florida goes to NYU Film School and meets this cast of characters and bonds and creates things and creates content.
I am really, really blessed and thankful for it. I really am, because, I considered USC or UCLA. I knew I wanted to go into the film department somewhere. Ultimately, New York won because I was born there, and it's New York City, and it's the best city in the world. And I ended up meeting these amazing people. And I think about that a lot, Lori, like the fact that how different,
like how many decades still.
Right? Yeah. Like, we met in 1988. And so here we are. And how different would my life be if I hadn't gone there? And the state ended up becoming the first big lesson for me, which was how powerful collaboration is, and that it's often bigger than the sum of its parts. And and I ended up carrying that into most every other successful project that I've done, be it with all the Judd Apatow's group and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Reno. There's just all of these successful ventures really revolved around collaboration and trusting the people that you're with, and passing the ball around. Drunk History is another great example of just an iconic show that I was very happy to be part of, that a small part of that ensemble. And over again, it just proves the power of collaboration and not making it just about you.
Yeah, and talking about, you mentioned Drunk History, which is another great show, but congratulations on being part of History of the World Part 2 and working with
man,
that is Mel Brooks.
Well, in full disclosure is that I didn't meet him, unfortunately. But that being said, I was talking about, watching HBO when I was a young kid, and that movie was on rotation, the Part 1, History of the World Part 1, and I must have seen that movie at least 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was I was very, very, very excited to be part of that project. I thought Nick Kroll and Ike Barinholtz and Wanda Sykes did a great job kind of wrangling all these really, really funny people. And I was very happy to be asked.
Yeah, and you could have just glossed over and not said that you didn't meet Mel Brooks. So that's an impressive. You could have just said, "Yeah,
I know."
You
would have said it totally different.
Truth to power, Rob. You gotta kind of be honest with the people. I missed the premiere, and I found out that he attended the premiere, so it was like a double kick. I was like, oh man, but man, what an honor just to be kind of on the same poster as he was.
Yeah, and as I know, you mentioned how many times you watched it. We're in similar age, and I remember even as kids, we're like, I wonder when Part 2 is coming out, and it was just Mel fucking with everybody, but
yeah.
But when I found out there was one, that's awesome. And I've got two other things that you were involved in that I want to bring up, and one you're going to be surprised.
You have me till Saturday. Keep going. We got a lot of
time. Let's start in the teenage years, John.
Fair enough, yeah.
Another very, very, very cult classic, Wet Hot American Summer. Not only was that just such a fun cult classic movie, but whoever had the idea when the Netflix series came back to have you play that age as adults and just not even say
pick it up. Just pick it up where we left off. Yeah,
it
left
was
off. Yeah,
brilliant. I think there was just like one little transition, I think, where one of the women went in to ask for a tampon, and the girls, and she came out as a woman. Right.
Yes.
And I have to think that may have played a little inspiration in Pen 15. I don't know if you've seen the show Pen 15.
It's a fantastic show. Yeah,
excellent
it's a great show.
Where again, two adult women play. Yeah. And you don't even think about it after a couple of minutes.
Well, Wet Hot American Summer is yet again one of those iconic movies that I was super lucky to be in. And that what's amazing about that movie is that that it even got made. I remember when we did it, when we were shooting it, we were all just so excited to be making a movie, and we couldn't believe that we were able to make this movie. That that energy, you feel that in the movie, the kind of just the nonsensical abandon of that of it. And I'll never forget it. It just was, I remember it rained a lot while we were shooting that movie. It rained like 23 out of the 26 days or something like that. And when it flopped, when it first came out, it was brutal. Like, it really tore our hearts out. And then it finally found its audience, which is kind of the case with independent movies. You just have to hope that they'll eventually find their way. This is what I learned about Outpost. Like, you care about it for so much. You take care of it, you nurture it, and then you gotta you gotta send it off to college. Gotta go do it. Look, I can't help you anymore. Make your friends. Figure out how to live out there. I can't do anything for you anymore, man. You gotta stand on your own 2 feet. And so Wet Hot was very much like that. And the Netflix series, I remember being super nervous about doing it because we just didn't want to F it up, and because it was such a beloved movie, and we didn't want to make anything that wasn't as funny. And I think we did a good job. I was really proud with how both of those series came out.
Nailed it. Leaned into the camp parts of it. Everything about it was great. And I don't mean the camp as in summer camp. I meant
yeah.
So, just
the style, campy style,
the silliness of it all. But it's shocking to me that you're able to get that everyone was able to coordinate on this, because you've got Amy Poehler, Bradley Cooper. I mean, I could go on and on. Elizabeth Banks, Paul Rudd, Ken Marino. I mean, one after another. Yeah. So it just kind of shows that you mentioned how much you loved it and being part of that. It's just proof that everyone who was part of that was like, I don't care if we got panned or not. Let's do it.
Yeah. That was kind of the attitude we had to move forward with it, for sure. And what's amazing is that, when we did it, Janine Garofalo and David Hyde Pierce, those were the big names. That's why we were able to do the movie, or big reason. And both of them are amazing, as we all know. But it's just it was great to have those up and comers that are now major movie stars in that movie. It's really something.
Yeah, very, very, very cool. So the question I'm going to ask you, and this is something you're probably not expecting in most interviews, but I want to know what it was like to be on Family Feud.
Oh yeah. Look at that concentration there. Look at that.
So easy to do at home.
I was so excited to be on Family Feud. The original show with Richard Dawson was a seminal part of my upbringing and dinner time in the late 70s, early 80s. And I did it with my family. We would just watch the show, and then just to have the whole family on Family Feud was a thrill. It was pretty unnerving. Steve Harvey was kind of over it by the time we did it, because they shoot that show where they do 5 or 6 a day. They take 3 weeks and they do 5 or 6 a day for 2, whatever it is. And we were the last show of the last day. So he had done so many. He was, by the way, perfectly nice and warm and all of that. But you could tell that he, once commercial break, he'd talk to the audience, and when the show was
he's
done,
on his way to St. Bart's.
And you can't blame him. But I was really nervous with the Fast Money.
Ready?
I'm ready.
20 seconds on the clock, please. How many minutes of commercials are there in a 1-hour TV show?
10 minutes.
Other than Christmas, name a festive holiday.
Easter.
Tell me the first name of one of the Beatles.
Ringo.
Besides a triangle, name another shape.
Square.
Name a day of the week that starts with the letter S.
Saturday.
There's one point where I just started laughing in the middle of the Fast Money because, I think the question was, name a Beatle, and I said Ringo immediately, and I started laughing because I was just picturing all my friends just giving me crap about it. They were like, "Really? That's the one?" And turns out number one answer.
That's right.
Number one answer.
And so it is as nerve-wracking as it seems, because it really does seem nerve-wracking when you finally have that clock going. Man. Just listening to questions,
It was people watching from home thinking it's so easy.
Yeah. I know. Look, you're under pressure, man. You want to get that money for that charity,
Well, everybody should know that in Joe's section, he scored 164.
Very proud of that.
You should.
Wow.
The big badge of honor. That's a big boast there for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Ringo. Thank you, Ringo.
Thank you, Ringo. Thank you, Ringo, for sure.
And as much
John
as
had nothing to do with that.
That's right. That's right.
now, as much as we'd love to keep you here forever and until Saturday, we really do appreciate your time, Joe. And it was great talking to you. I'm really excited about what else you have coming out in the future. And I know right now is unfortunately the strike, and for rightful reasons, I believe. I think this is the time it unfortunately needs to happen.
I appreciate you saying that. I think that is true. I think it's not uncommon. What you're seeing across the country is a squeeze on labor, and I won't pontificate, but I do think we're out there for the right reasons, and I hope that both sides can wrap this up sooner than later, for sure. This has also just been amazing. You guys are really wonderful to talk to, and I appreciate you allowing me to get the word out there about Outpost and the state tour and really everything else. I truly appreciate it.
Of course, it was an honor, and you can be my workplace bone bro any day of the week.
Yeah, I'll take it, Rob.
By the way, your IMDb is like the King James Bible. Like, I've never seen anyone have more work listed.
Man, I'm super lucky, and again, I think a lot of it is about just making it about the work and not being a dick, and you find yourself suddenly in good graces with many people, and people want to be around you. So thank you for noticing, Lori. I'm going to keep adding. I'm going to keep adding to that, hopefully, down the line.
Bottom line, don't be a dick. It's really
that's right. Yeah.
And on that note, thank you for listening to The Hole. I'm Rob Sprance.
I'm Lori Levine.
Later, motherfuckers.